Hello everyone, my name is Bea and I'm an English teacher. I've been an English teacher for over 30 years and one of my favourite levels to prepare my students for is B2. So I'm going to be talking about different ways in which to improve your techniques, your abilities, specifically for the B2 exam. Can I take this opportunity on behalf of myself and all the Exams Factory team to wish you all the very best with your English studies and of course in the B2 exam. So let's have a look at some listening tips for the B2 exam. The first thing, which might seem really obvious, but many people don't know or don't do, is that the more listening practice you can do outside the classroom or outside an exam situation, the better. And because the B2 exam consists of 4 different parts and 4 different tasks with people speaking in different situations, native speakers with different accents, talking about different topics, the more listening practice you can do, the better, because it's going to help you. So the first tip is related to what you can do on a daily basis. And it doesn't have to be hours and hours of listening. It can just be listening to something like a podcast or one of my favorite websites which is called BBC 6-Minute English, which talks about different things every day, and it gives you the opportunity to listen to some new vocabulary, to some different accents, and it's really going to help you with your listening comprehension. Something else you could do if you're a person who likes listening to podcasts is to listen to a podcast, obviously in English. And I don't mean listening to all the podcast. You could just simply listen to a chunk. A chunk is a short piece, so it could be 1 or 2 minutes. You listen to what they're saying on the podcast, pause, and you could write a little summary to make sure that you understand what's been said in the podcast or whatever it is that you're listening to. Then you carry on. You could just do maybe a minute or 2 minutes listening like that every day. And that's going to give you a great deal of exposure to vocabulary, grammar, and to make sure if you understand what's being said. And it's also going to help you as well with a little bit of writing. So let's move on to the second tip I'd like to make for the B2 listening. And I'm going to talk to you about distractors. And this is also useful information for when you're doing the reading part of the B2 exam, because distractors can also be an issue. What is a distractor? Well, in the case of the listening, it's a word which you might hear in one of the listenings, which is the identical word which appears in one of the possible options as an answer. Now, the probability that the word that you hear and the word you have in the written form is the same is unlikely. It's going to be the same word, but it's probably not going to be the right answer. So be really careful with distractors. Could I suggest that because you're given time to look at the questions before the listening start, you could start looking at the questions and perhaps start thinking of synonyms which you have in the written form and predict some possible answers or some possible synonyms of some specific words which might appear in the listening. So for example, let's imagine that one of the answers has the word small in one of the possible options. You could start thinking about some words which could be substituted for small. which might appear in the listening. So this could be tiny, not big, not large. And that could help you. This prediction exercise is number one, using your time wisely and also helping you possibly to predict some of the answers which you might hear in the actual listening. Okay, let's have a look at tip 3. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm not very good at multitasking. Now, I know that might be a surprise, but my brain can only really process one thing at a time, maximum 2. Why am I saying this? Well, it's because when you're doing a listening, you're not just doing one thing. You're listening, you're reading answers, you're looking at possible options, and you're possibly even translating things into your own language. What I'm trying to say is you're doing more than one thing. And I really think that, and this is what I say to my students, you need to do some training to be able to get your brain to process all the different things that you need to do for the B2 listening test. So what can we do? I think the first thing I would like to suggest is that you try and train your brain from passive listening, and I mean just watching a series on Netflix, which is really good. It's a good idea, but it's very passive. You don't actually have to do very much apart from watch with or without subtitles. So what I would encourage you to do is to choose perhaps one of your favorite series in English and to watch maybe 1 minute, a little part, 1 or 2 minutes of that series, okay? The first time you listen to that 1 minute, just take a pen, some paper, and write down any words you might recognize. You stop, you listen again, and you try and complete what you've heard. They might be, this is going to give you practice with stressed words, so the strong words, and the second time it's going to help you with those unstressed words, like those prepositions you might not recognize. The third time you listen, get the subtitles. Compare what you've written to the subtitles. All the time you're doing this, you're not just being passive. You're actively listening, you're writing, you're processing. One extension you can get for your computer, your laptop, your phone is something called a language reactor. Now, it's a Chrome extension. What exactly is it? So you download it, and what this gives you is the option, it gives you loads of options. One of the options is to have a dual translation in your own language. So if you're a French speaker, it comes up as French. If you're a Spanish speaker, it comes up in Spanish. And the English subtitles at the same time. You also have a dictionary. So let's imagine you're watching your 1 minute excerpt and you hear a word you really don't understand. On the actual screen, as part of the extension, you can find the word with a definition and the pronunciation. So that's really going to help you with your comprehension and your extension and broadening your vocabulary. I also suggest this because you can watch this with a Netflix series on YouTube, and you can also import any written texts to this particular extension, and this extension will read the texts with a perfect accent. So that will also give you some listening practice. So what's obvious to me, at least, and hopefully you'll be able to see this too, is that doing practice test after practice test after practice test isn't really going to help you other than knowing what the exam consists of, what to expect, possibly the duration of each part of the listening. So apart from doing practice tests, which is a valid activity, I really recommend that you start activating your listening and that your listening isn't passive. Watching a series has its place. I mean, it's a good thing to do. But remember all the different things that are going through your brain when you're doing the B2 listening. Watching a series isn't enough, doing practice tests isn't enough, so move from being passive to active. Thank you so much for listening. I hope this has all been very useful to you. Can I take this opportunity to thank you? And from me and all the Exams Factory team, we'd like to wish you all the very best with your English and, of course, success at B2. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Exams Factory, your best Cambridge exam experience.